We can now bring in Chloe Brimicombe, climate scientist at the Wegener Center at the University of Graz. Thank you very much for joining us here on France 24 today. Now, we are seeing high temperatures impact a number of regions in the world, from the United States to Saudi Arabia, India. How do you explain all this happening at the same time?
So we've seen over the last couple of years this happening quite often, and it is as a result of climate change. So as the report said, climate change causes heat waves to occur more frequently, last longer, and be more intense. But we're also seeing a greater number of people exposed to extreme heat conditions year on year. And we know that this will only get worse if we do not reduce emissions and therefore baseline temperatures and therefore our extremes from climate change.
But Chloe, what we're seeing this time around when we have floods, of course, there are people who die. Now people are dying from the heat. In India, people wouldn't really die before. Now we have tens of people, 52 just this week, according to one newspaper. In Saudi, over 1,000 people have died during the Hajj pilgrimage. Is this a phenomenon that's going to continue, where people are actually going to start dying from the heat?
Yes, exactly. So we do know that people have died in heat waves before, but what we're now seeing, which is very good news, is this being reported. And this means that we can change the tide and put in place measures like heat plans and heat early warning systems so that we can stop these people dying. So in a lot of cases, these deaths can be preventable. The people that are most at risk of dying are those that are over the age of 65, have a pre-existing medical condition, and also sometimes at risk are infants and children because they have a smaller body area and can't cope in the heat as well as adults. So, but in India, for example, we're seeing a threshold being close to being reached where even healthy people would experience heat illnesses and also be at risk of dying, which is very concerning.
I understand that you said the elderly and the young are particularly more prone to dying from the heat, but isn't it also the poorest in society, those who don't have access to proper shelters, air conditioning, the possibility of remote work, what have you?
Yes, so people that are the poorest in society, we are seeing more and more inequitably impacted by climate change, whether this is heat or flooding, because simply they can't get access to the adaptation strategies that they need. And so increasingly, this group should be targeted by governments when they put in place adaptation plans so that they can access cooling or that they can protect their houses from flooding, for example.
Chloe, let's talk about the importance of minimum nighttime temperatures, because I don't know if you saw in my introduction, I said in Delhi this week, the minimum nighttime temperature on one of the nights was some 35.2 degrees Celsius. That's incredibly hot, isn't it? Why is the nighttime minimum temperature so important?
The nighttime minimum temperature, that is a very hot temperature. And I think you said that it maybe even broke all the records.
50-year records, yes, it did.
Yeah, 50-year records. It's important because it means that you can't even cool your body down overnight. So traditionally, if you're exposed to hot temperatures during the day, then you have this period overnight where you do cool down. But this means that you can't cool your body down unless you have access to these cooling strategies. So this could be showers or baths, so lots of water, or for example, air conditioning. But even in some cases, it's been found that if you put a fan directly on your body in that sort of temperature, it doesn't actually cool you down, it just dehydrates you, and you would need more water to actually cool yourself down. So it is very concerning. And again, it just shows that people that without access to cooling now and in the future will continue to be inequitably impacted by things like heat waves.
Chloe, I'm asking you a question for pretty much my entire production team here. If you're in Paris, if you know people in Paris, you know that the summer has been non-existent. I'll put it that way. We've had just maybe 3-4 days of sunny days, and the rest of it, it's rained, been grey, or depressing, muggy. Why is it that it's an either or situation? Either it's super hot and there's a heat wave, or we have these periods of no summer.
It's a very good question. There's also been a lot of flooding in Germany as a result of this sort of same weather. It's because when you have a high pressure system, the atmosphere is trying to get into equilibrium with each other. So you have to have a really like quite low pressure system to cancel out the effect of that very strong high. And that's why you see this real difference in very rainy places right next to places where it's incredibly hot. And we're just seeing more of this, but it is incredibly concerning in both cases because then you have this effect of really bad flooding somewhere and then really bad heat in the neighboring country or even within the same country. So, yes.
Given that we're seeing what we're seeing right now with these incredibly high temperatures in parts of the U.S. And floods, as you mentioned, in Germany, can we expect winters to also progressively get milder?
So the trend is that winters are getting progressively milder. I know that in recent years we've also had quite a few really quite cold snaps, but if you look at the trend over time, these cold snaps have actually got warmer. So we're not seeing them as being as intense, and that is the trend that we think will continue with climate change, which is it's also not good in the meantime because you still have to protect people's lives in the winter. So we are also seeing increases of sometimes if it's a warmer period of like flu because it can spread quicker than if it was very cold and then it would die. But you still need to protect people in the winter from very cold weather, but you
Indeed.
now also need to protect them from really hot weather. So it's a bad time.
Indeed, Chloe. Thank you very much, Chloe Brimicombe, joining us there. Thank you very much for that.